All right, let's get to it. Analog versus digital. Which sounds better? Hey everyone, Stefan here. I hope you're doing well. So if you're interested in audio and you're just getting into it and you go through YouTube and you start to watch, this is what you're going to find.
Why analog sounds better.
Analog versus digital. Really, there is no bigger debate in the studio world.
Is there a difference between the hardware compressor and its digital plug-in brethren?
People are completely missing the point on why analog is better.
Now, analog versus digital.
Can you really hear the difference?
Does it sound better? That's a much more important question.
There's a little bit of a myth about all analog things being better than all digital things. And that's not a little myth, that's a gigantic myth, and it is completely a myth.
Did I waste 25 grand on analog gear?
That's the question of today. Now, most of you who know me within the last 15 years or so know me as a photographer or an educator or someone who speaks on stages. Those who know me 35 years ago, they know me as a singer, as a stage pig, as a crazy person, as an actor, musical theater, as a producer, behind the mixing desk and in front of the camera. That was the first part of my life, and it has never left me, hence why I'm still so deeply involved with music today. Because even though I retired from stage to actually become a decent dad, because if you perform 8 shows a week and you come home at midnight every day, you're not going to be a good dad. So decisions had to be made. Yeah, I became a photographer, pretty decent one. And I started to teach pretty decently. But music has never left me and is always with me and will always be with me. I'm still producing, I'm still writing music, I'm still recording music and helping others to sound good. So that's my background, why I am talking about all of this. Now, where you come into play, you are a photographer who now has to do video, and with video comes sound. And then you go on YouTube and you research different things and you come across weird things like mixing consoles and compressors and EQs and all that talk about digital versus analog. Well, here's the point. Back in my days, I learned to mix on an SSL 9000. There was no digital. I spent way more time on my knees adjusting tape machines than I would like to admit. Quite often every morning, just to make sure that all the tracks are perfect. Recalling a mix from a couple of days ago took an hour, 2. While in the recording process, it was quite awesome, and it has that sort of nostalgic allure of those big mixing desks and sitting there in a control room looking through a window and hearing some incredible performance on the other side. The truth and the reality is that I don't miss any of that. The fact that I can just load up a project in my DAW now and everything is right there at my fingertips is amazing. Not to deal with tape machines anymore is amazing. Not to recall sessions from 5 days and they somehow just don't quite sound the same. I don't miss it. What I do miss, however, is the process and the result of the process that we had. Back then you had musicians come in that really knew what to do. And because of the room and the sound that those rooms produced, because of course all the gear that we used, but mostly because of the situation that we heard great performances, captured great performances, and that together made the sound. So it's not analog versus digital, if you ask me. Even though in the digital realm there were several reasons why something sounded the way it sounded. Well, you have a microphone. That microphone needs to be plugged in somewhere. So the microphone goes into a preamp. In the preamp, there's certain components, transistors, tubes, whatever it may be, which just so slightly might alter the sound. It then goes maybe into a compressor. Just the fact that you push it through those units step by step will have a little bit of an influence. Then it goes into the recording console. The mixing console has a sound. If you talk about an SSL, it has a sound. Neve has a sound. API has a sound. And it doesn't stop there. Channel 1 might not sound exactly the same as channel 6 or 7 or 12 or 45. And it is the sum of all those minute, tiny little details which create a certain warmth, a certain unpredictability, a certain something that is hard to achieve in the box, unless you know what you're looking for. Because here's the thing, with digital sound, pure digital, we have ones and zeros, they never change. Zeros and ones and zeros, zeros and ones and zeros. That unpredictability, that difference that analog gear gives you needs to be replicated in the box to create that warmth. There's something called ear fatigue. When you listen to something very, very sterile, then over time it becomes tiring. While if you listen to an old record that was produced on tape, it has a certain roundness to it, which makes it much, much easier to listen to. But the good news is we can do that now in the box. There's heaps of plugins that emulate or have been created analyzing those minute differences and what the harmonic distortions are from those vintage analog units. And if you want to do this in real life, you better be a millionaire. Looking at a console like this, ooh, that's steep. That price hurts. How about this one? Oh, ouch. Yeah, not good. But what about a simple, Pultec compressor? $5,000. Okay. Well, Fairchild sounds fancy. I heard that on... yeah, no, maybe not. Well, in plug-in form, you can afford these. And just think about it. If you would spend the $5,000 for this Pultec, if you then find one in good condition, you put it on one channel. One channel. Pick it. So, okay, well, the guitar gets it, or the bass gets it, or the vocals get it. Well, with a plugin, you can put it as many times across your mix as you want. The important part here is coming back to what I said before. If the performance is bad, doesn't matter what you throw at it. If the music written is bad, or if whatever someone is talking in the microphone is rubbish, it doesn't matter how you EQ it, it's still rubbish. So creating a great room to record in, creating an atmosphere that invites to be creative, to give that 10% extra in the moment, that is the biggest part. And then making sure that you train your ears to listen to those differences. And if you then mix something in the box and it just has that harshness, that digital harshness to it, that's the moment when we grab to those emulations and tame it to make it less tiring on the ears, a little rounder, a little warmer. But you don't have to spend $1 million for it anymore. You can do it in the box. So does analog sound better? Yes. But can it be produced in the box? Nearly. Let's just leave it at that. 100%, nothing is 100%. I personally, look, I still use analog gear. I have to admit it, but very limited. As example, this microphone right now is going through a preamp that I had for a very long time. It's a Focusrite ISA1. It's an old beast, that thing up there. And then it goes into my audio interface and into the DAW. Yeah, This is a relatively modern microphone. I have some vintage microphones. Depending on what I do, I pick one or the other because, yeah, those small little sound differences, they change the way I perform. And if I record a guitar or an upright piano or my voice, it influences the way I feel and what I hear over the cans, and that in return changes my performance. Will the ordinary listener at the end hear the difference? I'd say no. Do they feel the difference? Absolutely. So, that's the summary. Digital versus analog. Analog is king, and it can be done in a box. I hope that's a good compromise. All right, with that, I say thank you very much, and I'll see you again soon. Until then, what do I usually say at the end? Yes, until then, go out and create something awesome.
Every frame's a story, every sound a beat. Stefan's here, take a front row seat. See the light, feel the vibe, turn that shutter slow. Capture life in pixels, let your vision grow. SB Weekly. SB Weekly.